My name is Professor Marius Ungerer, and we are taking a student group to Mannheim University as part of the international study module in September 2015. I've asked a student who is an exchange student from that same university to advise us on visiting the city, the country, and the university.
I start with the city. So Mannheim is a medium-sized city. There are about 300,000 people living there. If you compare it, for example, with our capital, Berlin, there we have more than 3 million people living. So it's medium-sized and much smaller than Cape Town, for example. So yeah, if you compare big cities, smaller cities, of course there is a different vibe and there are different possibilities that you can do. But I think for the time that you are coming to Mannheim, you will find enough entertainment. Well, I thought I might tell you some curiosities about Mannheim. The first thing I want to point out is that Mannheim is a square city, and I must emphasize that this is not usual for a German city. In fact, it's the only German city that is like this. What I mean with square city is that the whole city center of Mannheim, it's divided into squares that then have letters and numbers. For example, you could be living in C2, that would be your address. And that is quite curious, because it makes life a lot easier, especially for foreigners, because if they send you to some address, then you just go through the alphabet, through the figures, and you will find it. So there are no round streets, and yeah, this is quite funny, I think. But of course, this is just the city center. The surroundings of Mannheim, there are still normal street names and normal streets, and I think you find this type of city a lot in the US. But for Germany it's unique. So the university is also placed in the city center, but another part of Mannheim that you should definitely visit is the Jungbusch. It's very close, so that's another difference. You can go everywhere walking, taking a bicycle maybe, okay, you won't have one there, but then you take the tram. So there is public transport, also a big difference to South Africa. Of course, I know that there is now the My City Bus system in Cape Town, but still, in Germany it's much more common to take the public transport, and you can, yeah, it's not so expensive and it's easy to understand, so I'm perfectly sure you will be fine. And it's really not recommendable to take a car. First of all, it's very expensive to hire a car in Germany, and then cities are crowded, cities are not really meant to be driven through. For Mannheim it's still okay because it's not so big, but for example, there is a city center square, it's called the Paradeplatz, and there you cannot drive even, so you can only go with a taxi. So I would recommend, yeah, walking is fun in Mannheim, it's easy to find the spaces and everything is very close together, or take the tram. And yeah, maybe as a last insight, Mannheim is historically a city of some innovations and inventions. For example, I looked it up, I have to admit, but in 1817 the first bicycle was invented. And then in 1886 the first car, developed by Carl Benz, as you all know, the Mercedes-Benz, it was driven through the streets of Mannheim, so there is some historic heritage with regard to technologies. And coming to the university, you will see that the business school is perfectly integrated into the main campus. So if you think of Stellenbosch main campus, it's huge, and that's also how the Mannheim campus is. So in fact it's very beautiful. Mannheim itself, I have to admit, is not so beautiful. Cape Town is much nicer. But the university is beautiful because it's a very big old castle, and they transformed it completely into university because nobility and kings, that's long ago in Germany. And you will see a lot of very young people because of all the undergrads are mingling around there, so the atmosphere will not be so intimate as here in the USB. There will be hundreds of faces that you will see once and then not again, running around through the university buildings. And people will not necessarily know you by name. You are just one of many students, but the atmosphere, I would say, is light and everyone is mostly in a good mood, except when it's exam time maybe. So yeah, I would say the main difference is the size and the atmosphere, in terms of that it's maybe a little bit more dynamic, bigger, but on the other hand a little bit less personal, so just prepare for that. We have a lot of innovative and big companies in Germany, and I hope you will also enjoy some visits to companies that are interesting for you. In general, I would say business is influenced a lot by efficiency and innovation. And both of this can be, of course, good and bad. So, for example, the efficiency, people will always try to stick to deadlines, to stick to dates, to do things fast and efficient. So, this how are you and the little chat that you so often have here in South Africa, you will not necessarily have it in a German company. Of course, if you are there for a long time, then relationships will evolve, but at the beginning maybe atmosphere might be a little bit harsh compared what you are used in doing business in South Africa. For example, here I'm not sure whether it's true for all firms, but what I learned at the USB is that you call everyone with his first name. You say Samantha, you say Marius. You would not do that in a business school environment or business environment. You will normally be much more formal. Of course, there are also many young companies. So with regard to being an entrepreneur, I think Germany is a very good atmosphere. So the entrepreneur scene, it evolves a lot in Berlin right now, but basically you can start up your business everywhere in Germany. So I would say barriers to start a business, to open a business, are very low. For example, me as a student, if I had a business idea, I would get a lot of support. So there are a lot of seminars, there are a lot of things that they do to get new businesses done. And the reason for this is that Germany is really a country, we have some big companies, but we are a country whose wealth incredibly relies on we call it Mittelstand, so the medium-sized enterprises. And there are a lot of hidden champions in Germany. So there are companies that you would not even know the name of maybe, but in their specific category, they are world champions, like for example #1 in Europe or among the top 5 companies in the whole world. And these hidden champions, there are quite a lot of them in Germany. So business is driven, as I said in the beginning, by innovation as well. So by constantly trying to provide state-of-the-art technology and new things to Europe and the whole world. And maybe as a last thing, because I don't know how much you heard of it, but currently Germany is doing particularly well with regard to the rest of Europe, also economically. And one reason for that is the strong medium-sized enterprise sector. And the other is also this efficiency thought. For example, wages are, compared to France, for example, are lower. So, and the thought that somehow the reason why it is like this is that every laborer has to be really worth what he is doing. So here in South Africa, for example, I saw that there are very many jobs that are, I would say, low paid and low qualified. And you will not see any of those jobs in Germany. So everything below a certain line is normally replaced by machinery. So you would never have a person selling you a ticket. There you have a ticket machine at the tram. And yeah, so one of the reasons why Germany is unique in doing its business is that everything is driven by the thought that things must be fine and efficient the way they are. So people don't have a lot of time to watch the process. They want results. So it's a result-driven business culture, I think. And yeah, as I said in the beginning, this can be nice because you then see results and you really feel how you go forward. But sometimes the person itself stays a little bit behind. And yeah, I hope that you will pick up some of these notions of doing business in Germany during your company business. It's rather formal, so better be a little bit too formal than not formal enough. Of course, the culture is also changing now, so we have influences, for example, from the US, where people also say the first name. So in young companies, you will, for example, find it that you call each other by the first name, but particularly in the medium-sized enterprises, rather stay a little bit too formal, be very polite. For example, if you meet people, you will give your hand like this and shake it. But normally the person greeting you will start with this, but there's nothing wrong with giving the hand out. That's always a polite sign. And with regard to dress code, I think there's nothing you have to worry about. Maybe on campus you can dress however you like, and maybe if you go for a company visit, maybe put a nice blouse or something that looks nice, but there's no need to wear a suit, for example. And don't be afraid that you might do something strange or that somebody might find your behavior strange. I would say Germans are not very sensitive to culture, so they will not say, "Ooh, this person behaved very strange." They will just think, "Ah, she's a foreigner, he's a foreigner, so this is the way he does it." So, you know, most of us have heard stories of China or Japan where you can do terrible mistakes. Don't worry too much about it. If you have a question, ask it and just behave the way you would behave here. And even if you are wondering, is this appropriate now? In the unlikely case you might do something that Germans would normally not do, nobody will hold it against you. So don't worry about it, just enjoy your time. Germany is a country with a lot of public transport, and you can easily use all of them. So we have fast trains, slower trains, buses, trams. In the bigger cities there are also, what is it called? Trains that go below the surface. And all of them, well, I don't want to give advice that it's so safe in Germany, and in the end you get your purse stolen away. So in Germany it's very safe to use public transport. Everyone can use it alone, also at night. But maybe at night, if you happen to go to one of the bigger cities in your free time, then of course watch your purse, particularly if you're going to the bigger cities when there are crowds, because of course there are still pickpockets running around in Germany as well. But the level of safety that you have to look after yourself is much lower, I think, than here in South Africa. So if you stick to your South African habits, you will be on a perfectly fine side. But don't hesitate to use public transport. It's really perfect, and as I described earlier, it's the fastest, most convenient, also cheapest way to travel in Germany. English, you will get a long way. It's only very old people who really don't speak English, partly as they grew up in Eastern Germany, for example, because they learned Russian there. That's another story. But of course it's nice to have maybe some German words, and as some of you might speak Afrikaans, it's also easy because some words are related, and you might even pick up some sentences that you remotely understand. At least that's how I feel here when I listen to Afrikaans. So I put down the most important word, maybe it's danke, so the Afrikaans dankie, or you can also say vielen Dank, like thanks a lot, or danke schön, many thanks. And of course whenever you say danke, people say, "Oh, that's nice, he says danke in German." So I think, yeah, that's easy to remember and nice to have. Then when you want to apologize, many people will understand sorry. So it's something that particularly young people, they use it as a normal German word. Sorry, I'm late, for example. And they would say sorry in English and then I'm late in German. But the proper German word for sorry is Entschuldigung. So you could always start with this and then go on with the English, and then people might maybe think, "Oh, he tried to say Entschuldigung, that's nice." So people will always be happy when you make a little effort and show some words, but don't worry about it. They will not feel offended at all if you talk English. So sometimes people told me stories that, for example, the French, they were not so friendly when you talked English, but they wanted you to speak French. But in Germany that will not be the case. Nobody expects you to speak German because we consider German as a hard language, and we're not so proud of our language that we think, "Oh, it's very beautiful, everyone should learn it." We think, yeah, that's also an efficiency-driven thought, I think, of Germans, that English is the language most people understand, so we all make an effort to speak it, and we're perfectly fine speaking it to whoever comes as a guest to our country, so don't worry about it. So danke, Entschuldigung, and maybe if you want to say hello, it's just hallo, so it's just hello in a different pronunciation. Or if you say good day, guten Tag. Yeah, maybe you can look it up before, but it's easy to remember. You should maybe, as a student, never go into a restaurant without checking the prices before, because going into a South African restaurant, most of the cases you'll be fine. Otherwise you see it from the outside that this might maybe be out of your budget range. But in Germany, restaurants are far more expensive. So then in the end you might maybe sit there and think, "Oh my gosh, now my whole weekend budget is gone." Okay, I'm exaggerating of course, but check prices before. Also when you order drinks at a bar, just ask before how much is it, and yeah, You might be a little bit surprised that it's unfortunately a little bit expensive, but the upside is you can go to the supermarket and it's cheap. And the same goes for hiring a cab. You should not hire a cab. Maybe if you're a group, then you can split it between 3-4 people, then you'll be fine. But otherwise, in the whole time, my whole student time, I think I ordered a cab once. And that was because it was sponsored by the company where I was working as a working student. So cabs are really expensive. And Uber, I think maybe many of you use Uber here. I love using it. Like 2 months ago it got forbidden in Germany because the taxi driver lobby, they were really against it because the Ubers were taking away a lot of their business, so there are no Ubers to order. So stay away from that, except there's really no other possibility. But as I said, as long as you're in Mannheim, you can walk. And if you happen to go to one of the bigger cities, then normally public transport goes all night. Sinsheim. It's like 50 kilometers away from Mannheim. It's not so known, but it has 2 really cool things there. First, it's an automotive and technology museum. So there you can see the history of the cars, from the very first car by Carl Benz up to modern cars, and it's very unique and fun to go there, and it doesn't take too long. And then next to it is a thermal spa, and this one is really wonderful. I've been there 3 times, so maybe if you're really tired from all the company visits and what you've done, you should go there, set maybe 3-4 hours aside. It's huge, it's a huge thing like that, and it's very warm inside, like a tropical world, and they put up a lot of real palm trees, and then there are small jacuzzis and bigger pools where you can even, there is a bar in the middle of it, and you can have a drink. And I think, maybe if you've got the time as a relaxing activity, I would recommend that.